This is Ariana Pittigo. It is April 18th, 2020, and I can't remember the date anymore because that's just what quarantine does to you. You don't remember things. Luckily, I do remember what I was supposed to be talking about. This time I wanted to talk a little bit about how social media has impacted my life and what it's like to communicate that way for class, with my family. I guess first and foremost, I'll start with what I normally do in a day. Normally when I wake up, the first thing I do is check Facebook and Instagram and the news sources. And that's not really something I used to do. Normally I would wake up, I'd get out of bed, and I would go and start my daily routine, like brushing my teeth, eating breakfast, etc. And now it's really weird because I don't have any places to go, so I wake up, I check all of my social media outlets, and then I'll check the news, and then get kind of depressed and gloomy because whatever's in the news usually isn't good news. Today's headlines was Dr. Oz telling the world that we could send children back to school because, the numbers were just so low. It was okay to make that sacrifice. And on the one hand, I want to laugh because anybody at this point who trusts or believes Dr. Oz, I don't know how they do that at this point because he's just a quack. On the other hand, that's a very serious statement to say, and I'm not really sure who would wake up and think that that is an okay thing to say ever. And that's something that really has been very disappointing about this pandemic, is the fact the only window to the outside world is through the internet and social media. And through that tiny window, you just get more and more and more depressed with all of society. Well, maybe not all of society, because there's good people too who are staying at home and they're abiding by the social distancing rules. But then there are all these other people who are out protesting and not practicing good social distancing, not wearing a mask because it's not manly, and that has its own facet of problems connected with it. And I tried to talk about the issue of masculinity and not wearing a safety mask when men go out places. That would be way too long for this video. But it's difficult because it's like a weird addiction to social media right now. On the one hand, you want to check and you want to know what's going on. On the other hand, you don't want to check because you don't want to know what's going on, because you don't want to be any more disappointed than you already are. And then there's also the facet of, well, I want to know how my friends are doing. I want to see what other people are doing. I want to connect with other people because I feel alone. And it's not terrific some days. And it's very hard to want to continue to check social media. But again, it's like an addiction. You feel like you have to keep checking because you want to know what's going on. You want to know how people are doing, and you want to keep up with everything. And it's a very weird conundrum, and it's very difficult to determine what you want to do at the start and end of a day. I've gotten to where I don't like checking the news anymore at night, because one night I stated an opinion, and I'm not a confrontational person at all, and I stated an opinion that was a political opinion online to one of my friends, and I mean, it scared me too much before I went to bed. So I was just full of all this nervous energy all night because I had stated my opinion, and my opinion, it wasn't just my opinion, it was backed up by facts that are important for people to know and to abide by, like the social distancing rules, and the governor is not being a mean, dirty snake by asking people not to get together for church on Easter Sunday. And one of my friends just had like all these crazy allegations that was pulled up against the governor in this really weird article. And I pointed out a lot of the flaws in the article, and I was like, well, that isn't true, and that's not true. And I know all of this isn't true because I have been watching the talks every day given by the governor. And so I really try not to post things like that very often, because when I state political fact or opinion, or just my opinion in general, that makes me really nervous. And so I don't get online anymore at night if it's for social media or interacting with people at all, because it makes me too nervous before I go to bed, and I don't like that. So apart from that, probably the last thing I do on social media for the day is I tune into the governor's talk, which is at 4 for us in Bowling Green, and I listen to the updates there. I'm actually part of 2 different Andy Bashir groups. One of them is the Andy Bashir memes for social distancing teens, and the other one is Bashir Happy Hour, which is essentially people who make alcoholic beverages to drink while the governor's giving his address. And I quite like being part of those groups because people will post things that they're doing during quarantine. Like, people will post up where they have the green light bulbs on their porch, or they'll post up pictures of their kids doing different stained glass art, or different projects for school. And it's really refreshing, and it's very nice to see that we are all in this together. It's also really nice because they'll start watch parties in those groups, and you can join in and you can watch with people that you've been interacting with in this group. And, you know, I mean, all these people are strangers to me. I don't know any of them except for maybe a few. And it's really refreshing because you get to interact with these people. They'll make comments during the governor's address, and you can either follow those on the side, or you can just completely ignore them and just watch the governor's address, which is what I tend to do because, again, if I listen to what people are saying during the governor's address, it makes me more nervous and more anxious than I was before. Like, some people, I don't know why people who don't like the governor are part of these groups, or people, I have no idea. But the other day, somebody made this comment about the fact that it was all China's fault that this was happening, and it kind of took me out of the moment where I was watching the address, and then I was just anxious for the rest of it, and I couldn't really concentrate on anything that he was saying because that was just a very ignorant and racist and cruel statement to make. And I try to turn off the comments because I don't always like participating in that aspect of it. I do, however, I do like the groups because, again, you can see what people are doing and you can interact with them, and you get to see people's creativity as they meme Governor Bashir and Virginia Moore, and it's very nice to see people's creativity come out and all of us be united in this terrible circumstance. Other ways that I have been using social media or online communication is, apart from my once a week class meeting with my teacher, I have a once a week session with my therapist on Friday, and that's wonderful and I love it, but sometimes I forget what day of the week it is. Kind of like how I started this video and I didn't know what day it was. I sometimes forget what day of the week it is, and I have slept through 2 of my therapy appointments, and it was, luckily she's been very understanding about that, but it's not good because she's one of the few people I see during the week, obviously, and it's, with all of the anxiety and stress that this pandemic is causing, it's very helpful to be able to talk to her. I've also been talking to my family via Skype, but more often I call them. Skype sometimes doesn't really work, or FaceTime, or whatever. If it's like the Facebook video chat or whatever, those don't work as well, especially for if I'm contacting my parents. They live out in the countryside and the Wi-Fi is terrible there. That is why I am still in Bowling Green, because a lot of my classes require good internet, and Bowling Green has better internet than my parents do at their house. So that's why I am still here. On the other hand, I try to Skype my sister who just had a baby, because I do like to see her little baby, because I still haven't got to meet her in person. I haven't Skyped too many of my other siblings though, just because I haven't had a whole lot of time. And a lot of things have really stressed me out. I didn't realize how stressed out I was about the pandemic, except for the fact that my sleep schedule got really wonky at the beginning. I was just sleeping a lot. Apparently I was stress sleeping, and now my sleep schedule has gotten completely flipped. So I sleep during the day and I'm up all night, which is not great either. When I go out sometimes during the day and sunlight, I feel like a bug and I'm just like, the sun. So it's not too good right now. But I was able to do a Skype meeting with my family on Easter Sunday. Through my Zoom account, I was able to host a meeting where all of my family was able to get together and talk, and that was really nice, but it wasn't quite the same. I miss my nephews. I have 4 nephews, and it's just not Easter unless all 4 of them are running around and screaming. And I know their parents try their hardest to make sure that their boys are behaving, but they're boys, and they're little boys, and one of the things that makes them so precious and so dear is the fact that they run around and they act like little hooligans during family events. And I really miss that. I miss seeing them, and I miss getting hugs from them, because there's nothing like a little kid running up to you, because they've just got all this unfiltered love and adoration, and they don't have any opinions yet on you as far as whether or not they don't like you or not. So I do miss that. And I have excuse me, I have 2 new nieces now, so it was really sad not to see them, and I haven't seen my grandparents in a while. And that's been hard too. But I try to call them, and despite the fact my grandmother has told me that I don't come out and see her anymore. And I find that really amusing because I love her to pieces, but sometimes her logic, she doesn't want me to come and see her because of the coronavirus, but she also wants me to come out and see her because I haven't come out and seen her. I have no idea what to do. So I just told her, I was like, well, it's like, it's like school's keeping me very busy right now. I'm gonna blame it on school until I can't blame it on school anymore. Because that's the end of school is very close. I won't have that excuse much longer. I think there isn't a whole lot I can say on social media and internet interactions as far as school is concerned, apart from all of my classes being moved to Blackboard, and I don't like that too much because it requires a lot more writing now. So instead of just sitting in class and taking notes, now I have to comment on several discussion boards, and I've kind of gotten behind in those because I had other things to do that were more pressing. And I know at the end I'm just going to hate myself because I'm going to have a lot of discussion boards to catch up on. And I'm just slowly letting that pile up. But the things with the pressing due dates are a little more important right now, so I guess I'll just have to stay up all night one night and just reply to all these discussion boards. It's good. Most of the time, I communicate via email with my teachers. That's a little difficult sometimes because one of my teachers, I feel like if I could just talk to her in person and I could show her what my problem is with this one assignment, or with the assignment, I could maybe do it faster, or I could fix the problem faster instead of us having to go back and forth trying to figure out what the problem is. But that's mostly because in that class I'm working with I'm working with GIS software, so it would be a lot more helpful if I could show her my computer screen and talk to her at the same time. I'm sure there's a way to do that, but I don't know how, and it would have been helpful to have known how to do that before all of this happened. I don't really think there's much else to talk about. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to talk about. I think the only thing that I would say that's been difficult is, again, maybe not being able to Skype people because of poor internet connections, but that's about it. I think I'm doing okay. As long as I continue to occasionally go outside, which I have to because I have to mow the lawn, so as long as I continue to go outside occasionally and see some sunlight, and occasionally I'm able to call my mother or my grandparents, then I'll be okay, and I'm not gonna go crazy.